Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Dolphin Financial Radio Show. I'm Dan Wendell, owner of the Dolphin Financial Group. Behind me is a woman holding several $100 bills. I'm happy. She's happy. I'm happy. And today, that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to answer the question: does earning more money lead to greater well-being? Can money buy happiness? And we've done a show on this in the past. I'm going to reference that. I'll put it up here. We did a show in the past about how to spend your money to be happy. And we related it to retirement because this is a retirement show. But this we're going to talk about in general. Can earning more money make you happy? Can increase your greater well-being? To help me with that, I'm going to bring in someone that's happy, a happy friend of mine. There he is. Tony, welcome to the show.
I'm
I
so
think
happy,
I
Dan.
think
I'm
you
so
are.
excited.
I think you
I'm
are.
super happy. Oh my gosh.
You know,
Oh, let's get happy. Let's
I'm
get
sometimes
happy.
if I'm your poo bear? I don't know. Sometimes people
No,
say I don't come across as the happiest person in the world.
Tigger. I'm Tigger.
Yes, there you go. You're
The
Tigger the
wonderful thing
tiger.
about Tiggers is I'm the only one.
There you go.
I'm happy.
You're not
happy,
the only
happy,
one
happy.
that's happy. I like
Oh,
to be around you, Tony. You have a good positive attitude. And the question is it because you're making so much money?
my side from the laughter.
Mm.
My side hurts from all the
I
radio
referenced a
show
show we
co-host
did in the
funny.
past. We did a show in the past about can you buy happiness? And it was more about a book that we discussed about how people can spend money in different ways to be happier, how to spend your money to be happy. We also did a show way back. I'll put it up here about from Ken Honda. He made the joke that his last name was changed from Toyota. I know that you did that every time, so I'm just gonna cut you off
Oh
there.
no.
And that when we talked about personalities and how different people are, how you can have different personalities as it relates to money. But today we're going to talk and answer this question about, does making more money lead to greater well-being? And before I get into it, Tony, I want to ask you, because I don't know if we did a show on it, but I know there's a lot of research and there's this general rule of thumb out there that once you make a certain amount of money, it doesn't improve your happiness. Have you ever heard of that? Do you know what that number
Oh,
is?
sure. Well, no, I don't know. I think that number is different for everyone, but there is a certain point where, what can it do? I guess if you're the richest man in the world and you don't like the format of your favorite social media platform or the way it functions, you can actually just spend $44 billion and buy it and change the functionality to suit your own needs. I mean, so that's an
You could buy
example, but
he's gonna make it happy. He's gonna be happier by owning Twitter. Is that what's gonna happen?
I don't think so. I don't think he is, but he just wants, how rich do you have to be to spend 44 billion because you don't like the functionality of a website?
I mean, hey, you know, I wish the local library would stay open a little longer. I'm just gonna buy it and keep it open, right?
Right.
So we there's a lot of research out there, and there's a study from 2010
Mhm.
that suggests that $75,000 is the limit.
Oh,
That was the study. I'm gonna
really?
reference that, but before I get into it, let's talk about what we mean by well-being.
Yeah.
Because it's the researchers, and I say researchers because I'm gonna put the studies on here, and we're gonna go through them in a minute. No, no, I'm not gonna make you read the research paper, Tony. I saw
Oh,
you visibly shake there for a
you
moment.
send me white papers sometimes called
Right,
the white
yes,
papers, and I'm
yes,
like, oh, there's no images, so
right.
I just set that
I'll
aside.
read the abstract and call it a day.
Yeah.
So they have 2 different types of the, well-being. One is experienced well-being, the other evaluative well-being. So the experienced well-being is gonna be, how do you feel right now? Okay? In the moment. That's an experience.
Sure.
Your well-being as you're experiencing it.
Sure. So
Evaluative
spending money
well-being,
can make you happy for 5 minutes.
right? Or does it? So this is, but it's hard to capture that. But what the most research has done in the past has been evaluative well-being. Hey Tony, how did you feel in 2021? how did you feel last week? How do you feel? How happy were you in the month of April 2022, right? And so you have to reflect back to that and say, here's how I felt. And the sooner it is, the more accurate it will be theoretically, because you forget things, right?
Mhm.
So this study, okay, so those are the two, right?
Sure.
So we go back to 2010, and there was a study done, and it was about, this is the one that said 75,000. They said, we conclude, this is a quote now, we conclude that high income buys life satisfaction, but not happiness. Okay. And that low income is associated with both low life evaluation and low emotional well being. So not only does high income increase your life satisfaction, but low income makes life worse,
Sure.
both life evaluation and emotional well being. They go on to say, quote, emotional well being also rises with log income. That's just how much you make. But there is no further progress beyond an annual income of about $75,000.
Wow.
This
I
is
find that
Kahneman
surprising.
and Deaton in 2010.
Hmm. Because to
So,
me, people
yeah.
say money can't buy happiness, Dan, and I say to them, "Can it buy records?"
Gonna buy LPs.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
LPs,
Yeah,
vinyl.
record store day, we know. Tony's got a, I think the term the one word I would use to describe your love for records would
Mhm.
be unhealthy. Unhealthy.
Have you been talking to my wife?
So, okay, let's take a moment just to talk about this because you brought it up.
Sure.
When you buy a record
Yep.
at record store day, I
Yep.
have a feeling, and I'm going to guess, and we've never talked about this, and you may not know, but if you had to reflect back on it, I would say you are most happy during this whole process while you are waiting, or I was gonna say just as they're about to let you in the store, you're the most happy because you've been planning it, you've been waiting online like a freak. You're standing in line, you might be third in line out of 30 weirdos, and
Uh-huh.
it's not, and that's the peak. Once you get in and you see what's there, and oh, I bought it, and then you have it, and then it starts to go downhill, I think. Because it's like I just spent money that I don't have to buy
Mhm.
something, and I have it, but I enjoyed the process of standing in line with my friends or my son and all that. So
Super
evaluative,
accurate. Super
right?
accurate.
Is
For
it
the most
hurtful?
part, that's correct. Because I buy things and then I get home and I'm like, "Oh, man, I really didn't need this." But there are always a couple of things where it makes me really happy to have it and listen to it. For the most part, you are 100% correct. Yeah.
So building upon this, if you were making $20,000 a year, you and your wife, you were at
Yep.
poverty with your kids, you wouldn't be buying records, right?
No.
Maybe you'd go to a garage sale and try and pick off something, but that's
Sure.
not what you're into, right?
Right.
So you wouldn't. So by having more income, you're able to have disposable income, and you're less focused on food, shelter, water, just life, and you're able to focus on stuff that's a little bit more fun for you, which is buying
Sure.
records, right?
Yep.
So they're suggesting, and what they've said at all this time since 2010, and all the, I'm pretty sure a lot of the psychology classes in college use this study as like, this is what you know.
Sure.
75,000 is the number. Because after 75,000, all your basic needs are net, so now it's, or met, or so now it's just, all right, now it's fun time.
Mhm.
That's the theory. But but new research, Tony.
Oh, really?
Proceedings of the National Academy of Science came up with some new research.
It's a fun group.
And here's what they say. And here's the link to the actual survey for those watching on YouTube. It's right there. I'll put it in the notes. Those listening on the podcast, it's pnas.org. Okay. Experienced well being rises with income, even above 75,000 per year.
Ah.
So they've taken all that history, that study, and they said, no, that's not accurate. You could buy your well being, and it doesn't stop at 75. In fact, it keeps going up and up and up. The more
Huh.
money you make, the more your well being, you're experienced
Well, plus
experienced
that could
well-being.
change over that number would probably change over time. You can't just pick one number.
Well, they're talking about a study, generally speaking, in America, right?
Yeah.
So they're trying to figure that out. And right. So notice how they say experienced well-being. Remember, there was two that I mentioned. There was experienced well-being and evaluative well-being. How did you feel last year? How do you feel right now? Experience is right now. So how do they do it? And this is what's interesting about this study is they used data from an app that people have on their phones, trackyourhappiness.org. And they have on their smartphones that they get a, I don't know, a push notification at random times throughout their day, throughout their lives. How do you feel right now?
Sure.
Right. So it's a much more, I don't know, I don't want to say accurate. It's a much more real time evaluation of how you're feeling, whether or not you're happy. Like if we sent a push notification to the woman in the picture behind me,
Oh, yeah, she's
odds
holding
are
hundreds.
she's got, probably $1,000 in her hand.
Mhm.
Odds are she's gonna say, "I'm feeling pretty good right now." She's smiling,
Yeah.
right? She's got a
She
good
looks pretty
smile,
happy. I think
right?
I would
We
be
don't
happy
know,
too.
odds are she's not in a jail cell right now. She's in a good environment. So this study, right? So they started asking in real time, "How you feeling?" Right?
Sure.
And they concluded, and this is Killingsworth in 2021. So this
Okay.
research was done during the pandemic or immediately following the pandemic.
Sure.
Our data show evidence that experienced well-being rises linearly with log income with an equally steep slope above 80,000 as below it. So, as you make more money,
Mhm.
your experienced well-being rises, and at 75,000 it doesn't flatline or go down, it just keeps going up
Mm.
equally. The equal slope, remember that math term, the slope
Sure. Sure.
doesn't change.
Sure.
Totally flips the narrative. It it used to be once you hit 75, any extra money doesn't matter. Right? Maybe the number's still there, like to Elon Musk. And this is what they also talk about. It's proportional. So you mentioned Elon Musk buying Twitter, 44 billion or whatever. It's ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
numbers we can't comprehend.
Yeah.
If someone handed you $100 bill today, you'd be like, yes, I can buy a couple of records here. This is good. If
Yeah.
someone handed Elon Musk a bill, he might use it to blow his nose. Right. So $100 bill, right? So he's not going to get that incremental. But if someone handed you 10% of your net worth or wealth,
Uh-huh.
you'd buy well-being just as
Sure.
much as if someone handed 10% of his net worth to him. Right?
Mm.
That's what the
That's true.
study's saying.
It's a
Okay?
percentage, yeah.
Because the old study capped it and it didn't, the scale that they used to evaluate your well-being kind of stopped at a certain point. And people were pegged. But what they didn't realize is people could continue to go higher. It's like, going on turn the volume up to 11, right? We're not going to do 1 to 10. We're going to go
Right.
to 11. Like I can go higher.
Right.
I'm trying to keep you interested, Tony. I'm trying to come up with some reference to music here.
A little Spinal Tap reference never hurts.
So here's what else they say. This study suggests that higher incomes may still have potential to improve people's day-to-day well-being rather than having already reached a plateau
Yeah.
for many people. And we're talking wealthy countries now, right? Because
Right.
not many people have 75,000 of US dollars, relatively speaking, of income.
Mhm.
So there's no plateau. This is what they said. There's no plateau for higher income for leading to better day to day. Now, if you ask the evaluative stuff, how do you feel last month? Maybe. But
Sure.
day to day, as you're going through the day, the more you make, the better your well being.
Sure.
So, what do you think of that? A little
Well,
different.
I think that so we don't offend some listeners out there might be. So this guy's trying to tell us that money can buy happiness, and I don't think that's necessarily what we're saying here or what you're trying to impart, because I think I personally know people who have a ton of money who are miserable. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So there's a difference, and it's all on your. If you talk about the word happiness, you're not talking about the word happiness. You're talking about well-being, and other things. But you are in a way talking about happiness, but it's how you define happiness, I think, is the key. I mean, we
Yes.
have people out there listening who might be spiritual, and they're going to be really not happy with this because they're like, no, true happiness comes from in here, has nothing to do with money. We know families who don't have much. They live week to week, but they are truly happy and love each other, that type of thing. So there are exceptions to the rule, but yes, I mean, obviously money can buy things that make people happy. That's a fact. I mean,
Well, there's a couple different ways to look at that. To your point is, um, can money buy things that make you happy? Short term, probably, but it's
sure.
more about reducing the stress. Okay,
Yes,
we done
that's
right.
true.
So if there's a certain point where money is being used to reduce pain, right?
Yeah.
Pay for prescriptions and send my, pay to go to work, pay for, a new roof, like food, right? So can I buy the organic stuff versus the cheap stuff?
Hmm.
Eventually, so there's a level here where money buys time,
Hmm.
things that you're not focused on, like the daily grind. So I think that's what the 75,000 thing is. All right. Once you're at 75,000, you should have your basic needs met with that. So any more than that really doesn't buy happiness because it comes from within, right? Here's the deal though. I found the author of this new study, Killingsworth, he was
Hmm.
interviewed and he said something that um, interested me. He said that one factor, and I don't know if this was in the research or he was kind of extrapolating and maybe wants to do a little bit more on it. He said that if money matters to you, how much you value money, and how much you feel that money buys happiness is correct. Meaning, if you really focus on money and say, I need money to be happy, then you're right. If you say, I don't need money to be happy, then you're right. It's a personal thing. So
Sure.
people
Sure.
that say money's not important, they're in the study saying, yeah, extra money is not really going to improve my
Sure.
happiness.
But the
People that say
bottom
money's
line is
important.
But the bottom line is if you can go to bed at night and not have to worry about money and paying the bills the next day and where your next meal is gonna come from, if you can go to bed at night, you're gonna sleep a lot better not having to worry about finances. And, financial problems are the number one cause of divorce, they're the number one cause of stress.
Mhm.
So, I guess if you have money, it can, some cases, relieve that, and you can sleep well at night. It's the Swan plan. If you have a plan in place and they're working with a financial professional and are making enough to not have to worry about the day to day things, yeah, that's well being, and that's got to be happy. I mean, relieving stress is key nowadays, right?
Well, and people that I work with, retirees, people that are planning their retirement, those that value safety and those that value, like, I need to have a baseline, I want to have this so I'm comfortable. Once meet that, then they're happier
Hmm.
because they're able to feel the way they
Sure.
want to feel.
Yeah.
Now, what that baseline is different. And what the
Sure.
conclusion of this show and the study is that the idea that 75 is that number and that the ability for income to improve your well-being loses power after that is wrong. It's
Yeah,
wrong.
I would agree with you on that. I
It's
think
all
that's a great
proportional,
point. Yeah,
right? So there's no magic number. But and to your point, how much is enough? Because you know people that you know, they
yeah,
make more money than they need. It's never
yeah,
enough, right? There are
yeah,
people never enough. Or they have plenty of money or they have problems, they're miserable because they got other issues.
yes,
Right, and maybe they have a very poor work-life balance,
sure,
right?
sure.
Um,
Good point.
maybe they're making $1,000,000 a year, but they're spend all their day in the courtroom as a lawyer, or they're spending all their time traveling as a salesman or as a surgeon in an emergency room, and they never spend time with their kids, or
Sure,
they never had the time to get married, so they're miserable with that. or they're getting a divorce because they're not spending the time. So, but they have all the money, right? So you're right. Money's not a guarantee. It helps, right? We could see that,
Right.
but
It
and
sure helps relieve stress. And you're right, there wouldn't be a cap on that because obviously, the more you have, the less you need to worry about it, hopefully.
right, baseline though, but then your baseline will go up. But
Sure,
to
that's
say
true.
that, just because I make $2 million a year, if I was able to earn another million, that doesn't it won't move the needle because I'm above 75,000. I think that's what this study is saying.
Yeah,
And part of it is because they're getting
agreed.
real-time data, so it's more
Sure.
accurate. So I'm very curious about this. I'm gonna follow this guy, this study to see whether or not they take it any further and see whether or not they do some more about because I'm a big believer, and like I say all the time, Tony, a successful retirement is about increasing income and
Yep.
decreasing stress.
Right.
If you could do both, that's great.
Huge. Yeah.
But just increasing income, I still think that helps, even if you
Oh,
go
for
from
sure.
75 to 100,000,
Obviously.
right?
Yeah,
So,
obviously.
but it wasn't obvious because a lot of people and a lot of the studies suggested, oh, 75 is the number.
Yeah,
Don't worry, once you make
them
that, you're good.
I could have told them that was wrong. All they had to do is ask me.
So, the question is, Tony, if you increased your wealth, your income for your family
Mhm.
by 10%, would you buy more records? Or would you just be happier because you have the ability to buy more records? So does buying the records actually make you happy or just knowing you can make you happy?
You know what? Look at the time. We've gotta
Your wife
we gotta get
made me she said she wants an answer.
oh, I know. She does, yeah.
But
Yeah.
Tony, I will say this, and to the listeners out there, thank you again for sticking with me for the end of the show and listening to the show and subscribing. I get people all the time contacting questions saying, "Oh, we love it. We like the show." They mention you, Tony. And I want to say one of the things that I enjoy about the show is that you have a really good attitude about it, right? You do.
Yeah.
You have a
Oh, I
positive
love it.
attitude, right?
It's a highlight of
So,
my week.
right? So we'll keep that attitude going and then we won't have to increase any money coming your way. So this is all good. I think
Hmm. Wait.
we're
No.
all right. Thanks for a good
Wait.
show, everyone. I
Mm,
appreciate your time, Tony.
mm.
Good to see you again. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you next time.
All matters discussed in today's show are for informational purposes only.
This show is not investment advice.
Dan Riddle nor Dolphin Financial Group are affiliated or endorsed by any government agency.
Investment advisory services are offered through Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Florida.
Insurance products and services are offered through Dolphin Insurance, Inc.
Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc. and Dolphin Insurance, Inc. are affiliated companies doing businesses as Dolphin Financial Group.
You should talk to someone at Dolphin Financial Group before implementing any of these strategies or ideas.